here for the Quorum Initiative, a global organization of women in New York City, Washington, D.C., St. Joseph's, Missouri, and also London in the United Kingdom, who are looking to create change in the workplace. We are taking steps to create a direct pathway for women to leadership positions, to attract more venture capital money to women-owned and led businesses, and to increase representation of women on corporate boards. If you want more information about Quorum, look at quoruminitiative.com, thequoruminitiative.com, and check it out. It's a wonderful organization to become a member of, to connect with other women from around the world, and to really share what we know and empower one another to do better in business and go for leadership roles today. We also have wonderful programming, which I'm going to start in one moment. I am delighted to welcome back Anca Griffiths. She is the co-founder and CEO of OM, a precision health company where the best minds in health come together to offer support to corporates and individuals. After working alongside renowned health professionals and speaking with women from around the globe, Anca was shocked to discover the extent to which women are the biggest victims, that's right, victims, in the current medical and wellness system. And so to address these hurdles, she teamed up with Dr. Marjorie Jenkins and Dr. Allison McGregor to write the groundbreaking book, Why Women Aren't Winning at Health, but Can. Drawing on their expertise and insights, this work provides a powerful foundation for women to achieve optimal health and wellness. With contributions from recognized global health experts, the book has the potential to transform the way women and healthcare professionals approach health and empower women everywhere to thrive and find the right health experts to work with and ask the right questions. Because when women are well, everybody wins from around the globe. So our topic today is unmasking the predatory wellness system. And so my first question to you, Anca, is how is the health system predatory, as you call it?
Hi, Julie, and thank you. It's so wonderful to be part of this talk again, and I look forward to talking with you. It's always so fun and so easy. Okay, so we already had a discussion about a month ago where the first topic that we were looking at was what's happening to women's health in the medical field, right? And I'm just going to summarize very quickly what we said in our 1 hour conversation. I think everybody has a recording, you can go to it. But when it comes to the medical system, so much of what we access today is male centric. So what that means is, the drugs, the diseases, the new things that have come up since the beginning, I would say, of history of medicine, Western medicine, have been studied on men and applied to women. And it turns out that it's not working out so well for us because we are different in every cell of our bodies. So because of that, many times, we are experiencing things that medicine just hasn't caught up to researching, and there's no investment being put into fields to research it further. Or in the case of medicine, because it's still so much tested on men and in minority women, a lot of the times we find that there's side effects that happen after it's being released on the market. So more than half, up to 80% of side effects that are experienced in a negative way are by women when it comes to medication. So we are my background is in consumer and understanding consumers, what they like, what they don't like. We as women, we are very proactive about our health. We are engaged. We want to feel healthier. We do a lot to try to optimize our health. But in the medical field, it's not responding to our bodies as it should be. And we're not finding the tools there. And that's the whole first part of the book. And that's where Dr. Allison McGregor, who's an emergency care doctor and who has worked in, sex and gender medicine her whole life, she talks about that. And she explains to you why that is. Because a lot of the time, what's not going to happen in the session, which is the predatory wellness market, I'm not going to take very polarized views on anything. It's not Western medicine is bad, or this is good. It's a nuanced approach to it. And when you understand what's happening in the market, you can act in an empowered way, right?
I think I understand that you want to share this information and enlighten our viewers about what is going on so that they can be even more proactive in taking care of themselves. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Because we want women to be healthy, right? And if there's tools that help them, Western medicine, wellness tools, great. Let's tell women what these are and get them to access it, right? That's the whole, that's the whole goal to it. But Western medicine is failing women in some ways. And unfortunately, sometimes even the medical field itself doesn't understand that there's such a huge bias, right? And so that's why a lot of the time, if you're going to see a medical provider, you might be gaslit. So, they undermine your symptoms. They don't listen to you. They're telling you, well, it's not coming out on my results, so you don't have anything. Versus, it's unfortunate we don't have a lot of studies on this, and therefore I can't tell you what you have. You're not imagining it. It's something. So I'm just kind of trying to give women an understanding of the field that we're playing in. So when that happens, then of course we turn to wellness, right? The wellness field, because the wellness field promises everything, right? And as much as everybody talks about big pharma and big pharma taking advantage of us and not wanting us to thrive, oh my God, the wellness market is a lot bigger than big pharma, right?
So, Anca, what do you mean? If you can you just define what the wellness market is?
Yeah. So I would say the wellness market is anything that is not medicine or regulated in the medical field, right? So medicine is anything that passes through the FDAs. Doctors have to go to medical schools. They have medical licenses. They're held to certain standards, and that could be a doctor as much as a physiotherapist, as much, as endocrinologist. So that is the medical field. The wellness field is everything outside of that, right? And in that field, it's not regulated, right? And because it's not regulated, they can pretty much say whatever they want. So what will happen is they will identify pain points that women will have, right? And they will say, well, if you're suffering from brain fog,
Right.
if you're suffering from loss of energy, here's my super magical pills that have this amazing formula. And then they start using sciencey words, right? That's clinically proven. That is, hello balloons. That's clinically proven, that can help you to do this, and it has rebalanced my hormones, and a lot of money is being put into this. And
so it's not, I like that, because I think all women have been privy to this scientific language. It sounds like science, but it's really not, and it's not grounded in scientific research.
Exactly. So the problem with that is, if only we would waste our money on it, as in like, well, I tried it, I've spent money on it, and it didn't work for me. But what we still haven't wrapped our mind around it, because we know that medicine can harm us, right? And we're aware of that. And we almost have like that alarm that will go off if something is not right. But what I'm seeing after working with health professionals from all over the world in both, medicine and wellness field, is that when a wellness product is not working out for us and it's harming our bodies, we don't question it. We're like, oh, we don't understand how damaging it can be to our bodies, right? We have this amazing session on the OM Health Hub with Dr. John Damianos, who's a gastroenterologist out of the Mayo Clinic. And he's come in to demystify the whole, field of detox diets, enemas, powders, all of this thing. And what he's saying is, look, I'm a liver doctor, right? And when I look at what's harming health, the number one thing that harms health is actually Tylenol, because people can overdose without knowing.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
The number two things, the second thing that harms liver health is vitamins. So the point
That's
is,
so interesting because we're all told to take all these supplements, and
yeah.
maybe we shouldn't be taking as many or
So
taking them
look,
at all.
any doctor. So I think the important thing during these sessions is to kind of like give women insights that they can kind of go out and use, right? And here's what any doctor, naturopath, coach that is genuinely interested in supporting men and women in their health will say. Vitamins can be good in a very targeted way, but they do not replace food. And what that means is a lot of the times we hear like, oh, women, they need magnesium for this, or they need vitamin B12, or they need, the best way to get it is through your food. So if we look at something like, carrots, and they have carotene in the carrots. If you eat whole carrots, you're going to get the right amount, the body is going to digest it in the right way, and it's going to be assimilated in the right way. If you take beta carotene, the vitamin, you can overdose on it, and it's actually been shown to harm more than do good. So I think as we see, there's so much talk now about biohacking, and we see people on these elaborate rituals of vitamins, and they're just taking them, and there's this idea that vitamins are somehow more potent than the food. They're stronger, they're better, they do more.
Right.
They don't. Our bodies in the natural food environment, the natural foods as they are, when we eat them, our body recognizes them. We very rarely overdose on an ingredient, because too much of anything could be bad, right?
So how many women take supplements for bone, to help increase bone strength?
So then basically the point I wanted to make is sometimes women can be lost in the medical field, and they turn to the wellness field, and that's where everybody can say anything they want, right? So then how do you, if we go back to something like vitamins, help your health versus harm your health, right? And I would say, and I think this is a point that we're going to touch on later, sometimes there is a need to take a vitamin. And luckily we have the tests. You could do blood tests, and this is especially important for women in midlife and beyond, to do blood tests to figure out if they have all the vitamins or something is not assimilated properly. And once you have that result and it says, look, you would benefit because of the diet that you're on to take a calcium, because you're not eating enough of these foods and you have a predisposition to osteoporosis, you should take this much per day. Absolutely. Thank God they're there, right?
Sure.
But so that's kind of the way to approach it. And then when that's recommended, you need to look that you're buying a vitamin or a probiotic from somebody that has been tested by a third party, because they've done studies where they looked at the DNA molecules of what's inside vitamins, and up to 30% of vitamins do not contain what they say on the label. I mean, 0 of the ingredients that they say is on the label is in the actual vitamin itself. More than that, the more you take pills, detox powders, there's certain elements that are there, and then there's a lot of fillers. And a lot of the times those fillers can also be harmful for health. So I think when it comes to something like vitamins and probiotics, and for your participants, I'll tell them that there's the Clinical Guide to Probiotics USA. Google Clinical Guide to Probiotic, or look in because they have an app as well. And this is an institute that looks yearly at the probiotics that are out on the market, what they say that they do, and what has been proven to work. So you go and you can put, if you want gut health, and it tells you the brands that have been proven to work.
Right.
You put
Interesting.
vaginal health, and it gives you the products that have been proven to work. Because what's happening, again, probiotics can be incredibly beneficial for our health, for our gut health, vaginal health, mental health, because they, rebalance our gut microbiota. But it's not the ones that we kind of see all the time, which is, oh, I have this amazing new probiotic that I am launching, and it's clinically proven, and it has more probiotics than everybody else. This is just marketing. This is just talk. You need to look for a company that has been vetted, that, you know, a third neutral party has said, okay, it's in the
So
box.
you really have to you have to really investigate for yourself and
You
go
have to investigate.
beyond what you're reading in an advertisement.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
And
cool.
I think what I want to leave women with is it's important to know that these products can be harmful. And we're talking vitamins, but it could also be diets. It could be, you know, many other things. So if we look at something like diets, for example.
I was just going to ask you about that. I mean, I know so many people, they've been through Atkins, they've been through keto, they've been on crash diets like the chocolate diet, you know, all these crazy things. And I'm not saying that keto or Atkins are crazy, but you know, I don't know how sustainable they are for long periods of time. So how and why and how do diets sometimes fail women?
Okay, so diets fail 95% of the time. So most of that diets fail. And again, we want women to thrive. So we want to get them to do things, whether it's fat loss that works for them, or whether it's, you know, taking supplements or using other kind of wellness products that work for them. But here's what's happening in the diet space. Diets themselves are a product, right? And we talk about this formula in the book, right? You start with a product like intermittent fasting or the Atkins diet, which is specifically designed for a very small percentage of population because of their needs. And they need that diet because of certain health conditions that they have. But that's not a successful product. So then what they will do is they will say, well, we've seen that in this study, it has done these miraculous things and everybody should get on it. You know, intermittent fasting for women in midlife will rebalance your hormones, will blah, 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 blah. And then they put these grand statements out there. And of course, again, women in an attempt to be healthy, to look good, to function well.
They're very seductive.
They're very seductive. And we have sessions on the hub around fat loss. We have sessions on the hub around heart health. We have sessions on migraines. And I can tell you so many of these experts coming in are saying there's so many migraines that are triggered by intermittent fasting because we are not fueling our brain. Our brain is 11 times hungrier than our body. People coming in around heart health are saying we need to be extremely careful with ketogenic and carnivore diets because you might see short-term results, but in the long term, what they do to your heart health and your arteries, it's incredibly damaging, right? So this is, you know, the thing that frustrates me is that in an attempt to be healthier, lose weight, look better, we are doing these incredibly extreme things. And when our bodies are suffering, because, you know, we always, you know, we're not doing well on these, we never say to ourselves like, oh, you know, that's a silly thing that I tried. Right. We always say, I must be strong enough to get to the other side of it, right? Our body's screaming. We're having brain fog. We're, you know, having, you know, difficulty digesting. We're having difficulty functioning. And we're like, oh, but I must get to the other side of this intermittent fasting that I'm doing because that's where all the detox amazing benefits are going to happen, balancing of hormones and cancers and all of that, you know, reduction in cancers. When it's actually our body telling us that it's not working out for us, right? So the interesting thing that I found when I was talking to, again, doctors and experts from very different fields is they all say one thing, whether it's, you know, a doctor talking about medicine, or it's a physical trainer talking about an exercise routine, or it's a nutritionist talking about the diet. And they say your body will tell you. Your body will tell you if it's okay or not. And this is even for medicine. And that's what Dr. Alison McGregor talks in her session. She's like, if you're suffering on your medicine, there are over 40,000 medicines. You need to figure out how you can adjust.
Yeah, maybe it's not the right medicine for you.
That's right. That's right. The Amanda Thebes, who comes in on muscles in midlife for women and beyond, which is incredibly beneficial. she doesn't come and say, like, this is the routine that you have to do. She's like, start with something that you like, do it often, add more, have a sense of curiosity, try different things. And the funny thing that I've realized after building this community of health experts is how much they focus on the messages that your body is sending you. And somehow it makes things so much easier, instead of like, eat this diet and you have to do it because science, just they're like, okay, see what food fits with your body, what foods are you craving, and then add to that. And the same thing for exercise, the same thing for medicine, looking into your body to tell you the messages that you need,
This is really
when it comes to it.
This is fascinating to me, because about what you're saying, that your head will tell you that you're 10 times more hungry than your body really is. So you really kind of have to change your mindset around some of these things, and then really listen to your body and listen to what your body is telling you it needs.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot, because it goes completely what we've heard from like forever, right? Which is either listen to the expert or do this because there's benefits for it, right? It starts with how do you feel in your body? And, what helps you thrive is going to be different for you to somebody else, right? And it's very much a different shift to what we've seen before. Yeah.
So tell me about, many of us are very, very, maybe overly plugged into social media, and there's so many myths out there. Perhaps they're myths, I don't know, maybe some of them are factual, that are flying around about women's health. And sometimes, social media is also very seductive. Language on social media can be very believable. It can sound sciencey when it may not be founded in scientific research. So what are some of the biggest myths that are kind of flying around these days on social media about women's health that we should be wary of?
Oh God, where do we start? Okay. So as with everything that we've done, it's really easy when you vilify something, right? So I'll talk about some general themes that are happening. One is vilifying cortisol, right? Which is our stress hormone. Now, yes, it's our stress hormone. And yes, too much stress is bad for the body, but it's also the hormone that gets us up in the morning. It's the hormone that, if we have to kind of get and do something, it turns on. It's it's also, our hormones fluctuate throughout the day. So there's no need to vilify this hormone, cortisol, right? But a lot of the times, especially for women in midlife, you hear things like, you shouldn't do intense training because, it'll raise your cortisol levels and you'll gain weight, especially around the midriff area, which is, again, as our Amanda Thebet said in our session, that's how exercise work. When you exercise, your cortisol increases, right? So it's absolutely perfectly normal to have increase in cortisol when you exercise. Now, do you do an exercise session and you feel completely wiped out for the rest of the day or into the next day? Then yeah, maybe that was too intense for you. But for a woman to cut intense exercising, which can be so incredibly beneficial because she heard, that it increases cortisol and, then we gain weight around the midriff. Yes, we do gain weight around the midriff, but that has nothing to do with the increase of cortisol from intensity training, right? So I think there's this vilification of cortisol. Other things, well, a lot. I feel like every expert that comes on board gives a first part of the session talking about, what's happening in your body. A second part of the session, which now has become purely like demystifying myths around, health subjects. And the third part telling you like what actually works or what you need to keep in mind. There's a lot of talk around insulin as well. And there's an expert called the Insulin Goddess, and she wrote a book, I think Glucose something. And she basically has gone out and said, well, we must reduce our insulin spikes as much as possible. And then she gives this mix of real science data and cherry-picked information to kind of drive her narrative, right? And the problem with that is that then she will come out and say something like, we've seen, that people eating an egg versus eating porridge in the morning, the people eating the one egg is so much better for them, and they decrease their cortisol. And when you look at the actual study behind that, there is no study and there is no validity behind what she is saying, right?
Wow.
So here's the thing with social media. Anybody can say anything, and health cannot be explained in 30-second clips. It could be and it's hard. It's hard because you hear something and it's hard for it not to stick into your brain, right?
Well, plus I think for many women, you kind of want to believe it.
Of course, yeah. I know, right? You want to believe it. You want to kind of support your health. And again, if it's so there's this thing going around now on migraines where if you put your feet in hot water, it will completely stop your migraine. And putting your feet in extremely hot water actually does work to relieve a bit the migraine, because it's the same thing like taking a warm shower, or it's the same thing like putting and that I would say it's not harmful at all. Try it. Fantastic, right? I think that's great. But when it comes to things that are actually harming our health, like, ketogenic diets, if it's not right for you, like intermittent fasting, especially for women in midlife that need to nourish themselves, that's where I think it's kind of a problem. And we need to be very wary around what we're hearing.
What about health tests?
So this is there's actually been an article written recently about, the whole new field of health tests. Now, again, because we're not vilifying Western or, holistic methods at all, there are many health tests that are incredibly beneficial. I'll name a few. A DEXA scan, which is a bone density scan for women. Women should automatically do this in their 50s, before or during as they hit menopause, and they should do it regularly. And why is this very important? It's because 80% of osteoporosis that is being diagnosed is diagnosed on women. Now, when you find out most of the time today that you have osteoporosis is when you have a fracture. And by that point, it's too late. You have a fracture because you have either osteopenia or osteoporosis. So, and we have an amazing session called The Power of Bone Health on our session with an expert from Chicago. And she's basically saying bone density, because it happens women have lower testosterone, we have thinner bones to begin with, we are predisposed to get osteoporosis and osteopenia. But it's highly, highly preventable, right? First, you need to understand the lifestyle factors that you need to put in place. Second, there are tests, and you should do the tests, around the time of menopause. If you don't have, family history, then you need to see with your health provider, maybe even earlier. And then you need to do it regularly to see if what you're doing is actually working. Because what happens is when women have a fracture after the age of 50, 1 in 3 of those fractures will lead to death. So that means you have a fracture.
Right. It could just change your whole life in an instant.
Exactly. Your health just snowballs into something negative. Or a lot of women are being put into care homes because, again, they lose the independence that they need to have, by having a fracture. Highly preventable. The right nutritional, and this is, again, why it's so important when it comes to diets to look at what we need to nourish our bodies with. And that's the thing that really struck me. So we have 2 experts, one which is the heart health, heart health expert, and one is a bone health expert. And the heart health expert said, instead of thinking of what you take out of your diet, think what can you put in, right? What can you put in to make your arteries softer? What can you put in to make your blood flow better? What can you add into, and I think when we look at that, we kind of fall in love with food again, right? I'm eating, legumes because they're good for that. I'm eating that because it's almost like for children again. But we need to do that because we've been taught to reduce, to stop eating, to since the beginning of time, right? Like this is the diet culture. How can I stop eating, right? Instead of how can I nourish my heart health? What does my brain need for health, right? What do my bones need for health? Because calcium is comes really well through milk products, through cheese products. A little bit more difficult to get calcium through greens. So when you're kind of thinking about it in a very targeted way, you give your body what it needs. You kind of, you put in place the right things. So I would say this DEXA scan. DEXA scan is really important for women. Other testing that's important and it's great to do is, your yearly physical. But in that yearly physical, you look at things like hypertension, which is called the silent killer. Now, when you do your yearly physical, if you're one of the women who has higher hypertension, don't stop there, because there's this thing called the white coat syndrome that we talked about last time, where especially for women, and especially women who have kind of been traumatized a bit by the health system, when you go into your doctor or hospital, your blood pressure shoots up, right? So you get your result there. You say to yourself, my doctor said that my blood pressure is a bit high or high. Buy a blood pressure monitoring test, and you monitor yourself at home when you're having relaxed periods, right? Like you're watching Netflix and you monitor your blood, right? your hypertension, because hypertension over time causes stroke. It causes heart disease, and it's super, super important to track that.
Well, we just got a question actually, which is from Veronica Carrera. I heard that milk is not healthy for humans, that our bodies are not meant to digest lactose. Is that true?
No. So look, I mean, milk is very healthy for humans, and it's one of these sensational things that people can say on social media. Again, as we age, some people cannot digest milk so well, but your body will tell you. You drink some milk. If you don't feel well, your gut doesn't feel well, it means that it's not digesting it well.
Right.
And this is where I mean that there's the power of vitamins, right? So and if you can't get it through milk products, not because somebody says that it's not made for humans have been drinking it for thousands of years. We're fine on milk, and it's one of the best sources of calcium, which supports with strengthening our bones. But if you don't thrive on it, there's other things. There's yogurts. Try that again, and then it's your body will tell you if you can do it.
Right.
If you can't because you cannot digest it, and to be fair, if you don't enjoy it as well, so there's that aspect, then there are vitamins, because you do need your calcium to do that. So then it's interesting, because with foods, we see that different areas in the world have different ways to digest. So for example, in Asia, because they're not raised with milk, it's much harder for them for a lot of the Asian population to digest milk, right? So for them, it's soy milk that it's a lot more easier to digest. So then it depends as well on your food cultural history, I would say.
And I guess this is a question you can also ask your doctor about.
Yeah.
If you feel that you get a bellyache after drinking milk, what else can you do?
Look, I think you should ask all these questions to your doctor. And if at any point he dismisses you or says that, or acts as if it's trivial, then that's more a reflection on the doctor than on your questions. Really important to say that. No,
Right.
really high quality health provider will minimize these questions because they know the importance of it. So again, we have the session on bone health with an internist. She's a menopause specialist and bone health doctor. She spent the majority of the time talking about nutrition because it's so important, right? And trying to say the importance of having the right ingredients to strengthen our bones. She spent a whole other part of the session talking about movement and how to strengthen your bones you need both resistance training, you need to work on your balance as well. And another one, which
yeah, I mean,
mind, but yeah.
It's interesting. This made me think of, I'm getting ready for my annual physical, and I know that I have white coat syndrome. I get nervous when I go to the doctor. So I always bring my notes with me. In fact, I just started taking notes during this chat that we're having about some of the things I want to ask about, in terms of health tests, for example.
And then, more around health tests, it's looking, doing blood work and looking at your vitamin markers, right? To see if you are maybe not assimilating a vitamin or lacking a vitamin.
Yeah.
And then you take targeted action towards that. Yeah. But no, the whole milk is not healthy for humans, not at all. Also, I would caution against what's happening in the US right now with the raw milk trend out of social media again.
Yeah, what's that about?
So again, health has become very polarized, right? It's either kind of here or here. And on this side of complete, I would say, trying to keep things incredibly natural, then we get to extremes. And when it comes to, drinking milk that's not pasteurized, boiled, pasteurized, whatever the process is, there can be really bad bacteria that harm you and your children. So, I mean, it's super, super basic. Just don't do it. It can be incredibly harmful. Milk, the way we have it today, it can be beneficial if you digest it. But it's true that a lot of older, like as we age, are especially milk, not cheeses and yogurts, but we can't digest it as well.
Yeah.
No need to drink it if you don't digest it well.
Well, what are some of the tools that women can use, Anca, to help them improve their health and improve their knowledge of what they need to know that they may not know, and where they could get trustworthy information? And doing research is a big part of it.
A bit of a is
Sure.
We've so much, because just kind of jumped into the subject. So I'm not from health and wellness. I worked in the retail space for a long time. And I moved from that space into the health space because I saw that, especially when it came to my own health. So it started with a few health experiences that I had myself. Notably, I had 2 children, I had 2 miscarriages. And after living, I'm from Canada, after living in North America and Europe and now in Asia, I saw that different places were doing different things well for women's health. And I thought there's no reason for us women, to be so incredibly uninformed about the health things that are happening to us, like postpartum,
right?
Like what's happening to us during, a pregnancy loss, but also the tools that are available to us, right? Like who's telling us, this? So then the goal to OM was to build a place where incredibly legitimate health experts come in and teach women, and now we're also doing men about health, right? And the health experts that we have are not only at the top of their field, but they are not selling anything, right? So they're not there to.
That's really important. That's really important.
Yeah. So then what I learned when I met with these experts from across the world, and what I see on a daily basis and how they talk about health, I realized that we're very far away from, actually doing things that are supporting to our health. I see we have a question. How do you know which vitamin pills are the most natural? It's hard to tell what's inside some of these vitamin pills. Yeah. So Veronica, I don't have the so there's three kind of things that you need to look on the bottle, or 3 institutes that will test what's inside the bottle. And if the company runs their products through these institutes, it means that they have been verified to have what's inside, what's on the label inside, right? And your question is interesting because you're saying which vitamins are the most natural, and I would say no vitamin is natural. It's all something that has been kind of synthesized down to, to have that product inside. But what you want is what's on the bottle, or what's said to be on the bottle is inside the bottle. That's one. And I would say a few things. Be very wary of celebrities talking about health and health products, right? Because they sound great, they look great. Again, they say very sciencey things, like with the Lemmy vitamins of Kardashian. She's like, all of our ingredients are clinically proven. Yeah, they're clinically proven because, for in one, she has matcha, for example. Yeah, matcha has been shown to work. But you're not proving that you have matcha in your own,
Right.
formula, because it's just what they say that it's in there. And a lot of the times, we don't know what additives they've put next to it. So I would say what you want is, when you consume a vitamin or a supplement, is that what's on the label, or a probiotic, is actually inside. And then again, it's a matter of how do you feel after you take it. Do you feel like, it's actually improving your health as well, and not hurting you? Because there's a lot of, health professionals that have said, women come to me with like buckets of vitamins, Tupperware of vitamins, and we need to figure out which one is actually hurting their health. So yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been fascinating, Anca. Thank you again for joining me for this second in the 3-part series. We're going to be doing this again in early August, and we'll be publishing information about that. For today's session, we will have limited access to the session Fat Loss in Midlife on OM Health, on the OM Health Hub. And so that you can hear from an expert how fat loss works in women specifically.
I'll send everybody a code that you can share with your community, and basically you can access that session for free.
Right.
And then I'll add another one in there, because we talked about it quite a bit, which is the heart health one. Because I think it's good to listen to these two alongside, because there's certain things that are saying in a very similar vein, but mostly they're empowering you to understand the subject, to understand, kind of the myths around it, and it's coming directly from a health expert.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be posting that information so you have access to the OM Health Hub on fat loss in midlife. Please check out the book, Why Women Aren't Winning at Health But Can. It's available on Amazon. And check out the Quorum Initiative for more information about becoming a member and joining our exciting and spirited community of women from around the globe on helping to create change in the workplace and beyond. Anca, again, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to